This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Taking into consideration that we in America are currently facing a situation where the ex-president of the United States is facing multiple counts in several indictments. He's been arrested 3 separate times for crimes against the country. One crime in New York, not necessarily against the country. But these federal indictments are absolutely crimes against the United States of America. That's why in the indictment, it says the United States of America versus Donald John Trump. And on cable news all across the country, you're hearing people talk about this. They're analyzing what this means and putting it into historical context. And that's what happened yesterday with Al Sharpton on MSNBC, where he said something that is not untrue. It is true. It's a reflection on, imagine looking back on storied presidents, men who are revered by many, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson. Imagine what it would be like to read about them overthrowing the government to stay in power. He's not making a claim about the revolution and overthrowing or rebelling against the British crown to become independent from Britain. He's talking about if they did what Donald Trump did to stay in power. And the right wing freaked out. They thought, we got him. We got Al Sharpton. What a dummy. He doesn't know about the revolution. Even Ted Cruz got in on it. And Matt Walsh, the certified dummy, know-nothing bigot, he got in on it as well. First, if you haven't seen the clip, I'm going to play. It's like 16 or 18 seconds from Al Sharpton on MSNBC. This is what he said.
One day, our children's children will read American history. And can you imagine our reading that James Madison or Thomas Jefferson tried to overthrow the government so they can stay in power? That's what we're looking at. We're looking at American history.
Where's he wrong? Can you imagine our reading that James Madison or Thomas Jefferson tried to overthrow the government, and the key part, so they can stay in power? Because our presidents, up until Donald Trump, with the exception of maybe FDR, respected the precedent that was set by George Washington. 2 terms and he was out. There was a respect for order and decency and honor related to our democracy. There just was. But if you leave it to, again, certified not smart person, Matt Walsh, he has a different take. A more radical and ahistorical take that he wants to share with you and the world. Here he is.
Thomas Jefferson did rebel against the government. That's how our country was formed. And, we know that. Al doesn't, apparently. But it does raise an interesting question, actually. I mean, inadvertently, he raises an interesting question that I think about a lot, which is how would Thomas Jefferson and the Founding Fathers respond to our government right now? And obviously the answer is they would violently overthrow it. Like, if our Founding Fathers were on the scene right now, January 6th would be a walk in the park. It would be a picnic compared to what they would do. And they wouldn't even think about it. Like, if Thomas Jefferson came back from the dead and looked at our government now, he would turn to us, the citizens, and say, what are you people doing? You haven't invaded Washington yet and killed all these people? What are you waiting for? What's the problem here? What's the holdup, folks? I'm not advocating for that. I'm just telling you what Jefferson would say, okay? Just taxes alone, all right? Not even taking everything else into account, the giant behemoth central government, which is, by the way, far larger and more powerful and more invasive than the government that the founders rebelled against, okay?
Oh, Matt. One, I'm still perpetually curious about what it is you're hiding that soft, weak chin underneath that beard. Nobody's fooled, brother. Secondly, let's talk about this quote. If Thomas Jefferson came back from the dead and looked at our government now, he would turn to us, the citizens, and say, "What are you people doing? Why haven't you invaded Washington yet and killed all these people?" The right has a fascination with our presidents being like Rambo-like figures. Thomas Jefferson wasn't a warrior. Thomas Jefferson was a foppish dandy. He was a fancy boy. He was a rich brat, is what Thomas Jefferson was. He did not enlist to fight in the Revolutionary conflict. He was part of the Brain Trust. And what do you think Thomas Jefferson would say if he rose from the dead and looked out over the government of the United States? He might say, "Whoa, a black person is president? Why isn't he picking cotton? Why isn't he owned by another human being like I owned dozens and dozens and dozens of black human beings?" That's probably the first thing he'd say. What? Actual equality? That these people are endowed by their creators? Equal among everyone? Harumph. But do you think Thomas Jefferson, the frugal politician that he was in certain instances, do you think, Matt Walsh, that he would be A-OK with an $886 billion annual defense budget when there's nothing yet to, there's no war, there's no conflict, there's no defense. It's just a military budget. You think he'd be A-OK? The Jeffersonian democracy guy, he'd be okay with a nearly $1 trillion military budget? Matt Walsh, do you think, you said I've given this a lot of thought. I think about this all the time. What would they think? Because I don't hear you complaining about that $1 trillion, that nearly $1,000 billion we're spending annually on a military when there's no war in sight. More than the next 10 countries combined. More than the next 10 cabinet positions, agencies combined. But you want to drag Al Sharpton for saying something that is clear, succinct, factual, in defense of a man who did attempt to overthrow the United States government, not because of tyranny, but because of lust for power. You chinless fucking weirdo. You simpleton. You elementary school dropout moron who has little functioning understanding of our founding, of the revolution. You see, the Revolutionary War, the revolution of our founding, it wasn't necessarily the war itself. That wasn't the revolution. The revolution was the Constitution. And the revolution continues, Maddie. The revolution continues to create that more perfect union on a day by day basis to ensure that we all are equally protected under the law, that we all are endowed by our creators to be all equal. Not in your book, of course. You advocate for the genocide of transgenderism or the eradication of transgenderism. You're obsessed with people's genitals and you make it your life's mission to put an already marginalized group in danger. I'm far afield here, but you know, I'm sure there will be trolls in the comments. I would invite your participation in this conversation, as ahistorical as it might be. You can comment below. You can also call. Leave me an aggrieved voicemail. 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. I would like to hear from you. You can also yell at me on social media and tell me how right or wrong that I am. I am at Dollemore everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, all of it. At Dollemore. If you appreciate what I do, and you're not one of the ones sending me troll voicemails or hate mail or death threats, and you want to support my work, help produce my work, click the join button below, become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month. Hit the super thanks button or go over to my Patreon page, patreon.com/idoutit podcast, which doesn't just support the podcast. It certainly does, but it also supports my work right here in the videos. I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.